Today newspaper, the Meridian newspaper, Business and Financial Times. There is also the Daily Dispatch, the Finder newspaper, the Daily Guide newspaper, and I think one more, the Ghanaian Times newspaper. So let's say good morning to Joseph Akable. Good morning to you. Hello, Joe. Okay, it seems like we're having some technical challenge there with the sound. So let me just start off with the Daily Graphic newspaper. Here's what's on the front page of the Daily Graphic. I'm committed to free media. President reaffirms at 8 prayers. Akufo-Addo responds to Akwesi-Efrifa. I shared this with you. It was in one of the papers yesterday. Public Officers Conduct Bill will give effect to Constitution, according to the Attorney General, and the Owabi Dam needs immediate dredging. If you look at the center spread of the paper, it says the Ahmadiyya Muslim Mission in Ghana has called on Muslim leaders to lead the way in supporting the development of the country. Ratify UN Convention to speed up AFTA agreements. That's a call by Professor Dateba, where he also discloses that we, as a country, have not ratified a certain convention on the international sales of goods to support the implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement, something that he says, if we did, we will take better advantage of this. But he made the call during the launch of his new book titled Selected Papers and Lectures on Ghanaian Law in Accra last Monday. The book deals with a wide spectrum of legal topics, ranging from those relating to the Ghanaian legal system and legal education to the judiciary, human rights, and good subjects. Well, he says the book can serve as a mini reader on Ghanaian law. So anything from Professor Dateba, I tell you what, you've got to grab one if you can. And then there's the Population Council wanting a dialogue on reproductive health. Details of that in the center spread of the Daily Graphic. On the back page, government secures $34 million loan for Pong irrigation projects. 110 investors express interest. ECOWAS Commission supports armed forces. Also another story on the back page of the Daily Graphic newspaper. Let's see if we can connect to Joseph Akable now. Hello, Joseph. Okay, not quite ready. Okay, so let's do some other newspapers. And now the Finder newspaper is what I will share next. On the front page of the Finder, government gives approval for payments of school feeding caterers. That's a revelation by the national coordinator. Researchers to explore how to cure human diseases using cocoa components. This is one from the Cocoa Board. We're willing to participate in Ghana-Nigeria trade discourse. This is GNBC. And then government to create 1 million jobs in 3 years. President assures and urges strict adherence to COVID-19 safety protocols. Professor Henson ranked best marketing scholar in Africa. It's quite a big one. Congratulations to him. Let's do Republic Press newspaper. Front page of Republic Press, Akufo-Addo's lawyer breaks silence on 5 million bribery saga. Well, yesterday was a holiday, so not many of the newspapers had the opportunity to publish this story. So it's back in the news today. The lawyer Akufo-Addo's response to all of us, really, with a copy to the General Legal Counsel. No desk for Trefo. Kotochi DA school kits. Gridlock on Kanda Highway as Muslim revelers scramble to pray in new mosque. This is a look back at what happened yesterday. Okay, let's see. I think there's a response from lawyer Efrifa, the angle that Republic Press brings, because apart from Akufo-Addo breaking his silence, they say under fire lawyer defense claim. That story is on page 3. So let's look at the new angle in the paper. Okay, so Kwesi Afrifa, the lawyer who has implicated the Chief Justice Kwesi Enimeh-Boah on a $5 million bribery scandal, says he has done nothing wrong. Kwesi Afrifa had accused the Chief Justice of demanding a $5 million bribe from his client to influence the final judgment of a case at the Supreme Court. Okay. All right, so I guess this response is basically perhaps something that you have seen on his way to the CID to meet the police on Monday. There were some pressmen who, caught up with him, tried to ask him questions, but I think significantly what he said was he had done nothing wrong. To the Today newspaper front page, court rules against Health Network as Group Indom wins 174 million Ghana cedis judgment. Proves regulators acted hastily in revoking licenses of GN companies. Proves customers' funds were invested in Ghana. Elmina Sharks survives relegation as team beats Kotoko on final day. You would understand why this story is on the front page of the Today newspaper. Ajimai Menu admits error in Sputnik V contract, and Muslims mark Eid al-Adha as Akufo-Addo Mahama send them warmest wishes. Okay, there's some sports stories on the back page of the Today newspaper, including the GFA investigating Ashgold Inter-Allies game. There's a player, the player at the center of the controversy in the Ashgold's win over Inter-Allies. He has claimed he was congratulated by the technical team of his side, Inter-Allies, for scoring 2 own goals in the game. Meanwhile, as we know already, the Ghana Football Association is investigating this matter. And it's one even before they come out with their findings. It's just, a shocker. Like, we're all really on high with this whole season's English, the Ghana Premier League. And here we are, just at the finishing line with all these allegations and discoveries. It's such a big shame, isn't it? Joseph Akable joins me now. Joseph, can we hear you?
Hello, Abby.
Yeah. You're good?
Yeah, I'm good. Good morning.
Okay, good morning. Great. So let me allow you to do the newspapers that you have, the Daily Guide, Dispatch, and the Ghanaian Times.
Oh, just before then, a quick one on the footballer you were talking about. I saw an interview he granted a media organization. He said he had been told or had heard that there was a bet that the game was going to end by 5-1. And so when it was 5-0, it looked all set. And so he had to score the 2 goals to ensure that the bet does not come through because he's against betting as part of his religion.
It's interesting. Why didn't he help his side to overturn that?
Oh, to overturn that, all he needed to do was to ensure that the score was not 5-0, 5-1.
No, I mean, like, you fight for your interest, right? I mean, why would the score be against you? Could turn it around, let it be for you. Well, maybe somebody would argue they had already been relegated anyway.
Exactly. They didn't need a point for anything. But there are those who are saying that if you look at a few of the other games aside from this particular match, there's reason to believe something like that may have happened, including the goal that Sharks scored against Kotoko. It's reference made to that as well.
Let me tell you what my producer Derek Okosam just said to me, that he's a defender, so he scored in the post closest to him. All right, Joe, let's go ahead. Let's hear what you have in the papers.
So I'll do the front page of the Ghanaian Times first. It has government plots 1 million jobs for youth in next 3 years. And President VIP joined Muslim Ummah to celebrate first national Eid al-Adha in National Mosque. MTN Ghana judged Business of the Decade at MEA, also on the front page of the Ghanaian Times. We can do the back page now, and it says use ICT to enhance farming activities. And US Ambassador Wepura mark share day in tree planting with tree planting at Damongo. Also, the front page of the Daily Guide has this story about CID grows $5 million bribe lawyer. It's crazy, says Sheshi, that's Akutampao. And Nana worried about COVID surge, also on the front page. 7 dangerous robbers caged. Another story on the front page of the Daily Guide newspaper. Now to the front page of the Finder now. The Finder reports this morning that government to create 1 million jobs in 3 years, and president assures and urges strict adherence to COVID-19 safety protocols. Professor Hinton ranked best marketing scholar in Africa, and we are willing to participate in Ghana-Nigeria trade discourse coming from the GNBC. Researchers to explore how to cure human diseases using cocoa components, that's according to the Cocoa Board, and government gives approval for payment of school feeding caterers. The national coordinator is the one speaking on the front page of the Finder newspaper, Mabi.
All right, let's do the Business and Financial Times. That's the paper I haven't touched on yet. On the front page, MTN is Business of the Decade at Millennium Excellence Awards. Businesses unhappy with delay in forming Tax Appeals Board. Upward pressure mounts on domestic bond yields. Multi-million-dollar local apparel industry lays dormant as China dominates export markets. And only 5% of youth are into agric processing. That's the Haifa International reports. On the back page, GCB Bank tops banks' media visibility rankings for first quarter and second quarter, according to research. Increased scrutiny for board member qualification. This is the president of the Institute of Directors Ghana, Roxin Kwesi Dogaga, who's called for increased scrutiny into the suitability of persons who make up boards of companies, particularly financial institutions. As he said, this will forestall a recurrence of the high-profile industry-wide scandals which have bedeviled the financial services landscape for some years now. Certainly a very good call. So that's it for the Business and Financial Times. Joseph, is there something you want to highlight?
There's this story that I've seen in it. It's some worrying story. I mean, it's something that we keep talking about all the time, but it keeps happening. We are told that month 30 in filing 14-year-old girl. It's a story from Amma Tichiwa Ampedwajiman from Akufo-Addo. And so we are told that Aaron has been remanded into police custody by Akufo-Addo Circuit Court for allegedly defiling a 14-year-old girl. The gentleman is 30, who is married and had children with his wife in Nigeria, said to have defiled the girl 3 times house at Abrewa, and once, it's a suburb in Akufo-Addo, and gave her contraceptives anytime he had sex with her. And so he was charged with defilement contract section 1012 Criminal and Other Offences Act as amended. However, the defense counsel pleaded with the court not to grant the accused bail, but the prosecutor objected and stated that the accused has a permanent place of abode and has no permanent place of abode and may elope to Nigeria. And so the court presided over by Mrs. Mercy Adekode therefore consented to the prosecutor's objection raised and remanded the accused to appear on July 26. So not a very good story there, but I mean, of course, it remains an allegation, but it's a notorious fact that issues of defilement remain a major concern in various parts of the country, and it's something that we should be talking about. You remember last week we're talking, I think on Monday rather, we're talking about the issue of teenage pregnancy. Richard actually brought us a story from the Central region yesterday that also highlighted the issue where the region health authorities are raising concerns about the rising numbers, especially in the coastal areas. And when we're having a conversation, I grew up in the coastal area, the Nyanyano area, and it was a very common feature. And a few of the colleagues in the news, when we're having a discussion, who were from coastal areas, were all also making reference to the fact that it seemed to be a trend around the coastal areas. I'm not too sure whether we've gotten a grasp of why that is the case, Mavi.
Yeah, on that same issue yesterday, there was a lady that Richard Kojunyaku featured that I had an extensive conversation with, Ernestina. She, was a victim of rape. She has a 14-year-old now. But she's doing something incredible, something that not many of us have even thought of, or not have the courage to, especially for somebody who's suffered from it. She has a safe place for about 400 girls. And when you talk about 400 girls, you're also talking about 400 children. So these are children taking care of
Wow.
children, and she's trying to extend a hand. She has a farm which she uses to take care of these girls who have all given birth. And her story is just incredible. Yes, we don't have a grip on this one, Joseph. We don't. There are plenty more girls who get pregnant every day. There was a report from Pong Katamaso where they said,
Yeah.
averagely 25 girls will get pregnant every month. This is monthly. I mean, it's very scary. But you were talking on the law about abuse just on Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, and the stories that were shared. I mean, we have very, very fantastic laws in place. The Children's Act is one piece of such legislation. It essentially makes it a crime when you do it to a child that affects the development of the child in terms of education, health, and well-being, among others. And a lot of these things that we see happen tend to affect them. I mean, no one has any issues when you marry any person or do any whatsoever with it. But the problem is that some of these people, like this case they are talking about, is an issue of defilement, and so clearly the person legally is incapable of even granting consent, and you've gone ahead to have sexual intercourse with that person. It's a crime, and when we get hold of you, you are convicted between 7 to 25 years. Is what the state will push for and what the law provides that you should be punished with. And so it was quite an enlightening discussion listening to Ramana Sharif, who works within the space of trying to, very similar to what a 14-year-old is doing, trying to create a safe space for such persons to be there. I mean, the social support system is very important. There are people who have very, very high aspirations. In fact, they are very talented and have the potential to play crucial roles in the development of the nation. They get pregnant as teenagers due to the fact that they are defiled. Then they end up dropping out of school, and that changes their life for good. And so, what the people are trying to do in the NGO space is to create that opportunity such that their development is not truncated. It's a means of ensuring that they continue with it. Ideally, it should be the state with its social welfare and social support system that should be doing that. I mean,
True. When you hear 400 girls having gone through this, you'd expect to hear 400 boys and men being punished for the act, especially because these girls are underage or were underage when this happened to them. But here we are, still battling with that. But Joseph, is it that you attended the program on the public officers' conduct? Because I saw that you were putting some
yes, I
details.
did.
Why should we be hopeful about this bill that we're told is in the offing?
I think from the onset, one of the papers you read, you made reference to having to ratify some external legislation. I mean, in terms of the governance indicators and performance on CPIs and all those things, there are two pieces of external treaties that we've entered into. One is the African Convention on Corruption, and the other is the UN one. And you know how our system works. I mean, our Ghanaian legal system, when you ratify any piece of legislation, unless it is when you sign into a treaty or any piece of legislation outside, unless it is brought into our parliament and ratified, it does not take effect. And so that is one key importance of that. We are going to do that, and those external principles will come into law. So this particular bill is seeking to do that. Those two pieces of treaties that we've entered into is going to ratify it. And the third one is it makes some changes to our asset declaration regime. It's not as the new change is not as robust as many may have suggested, but the difference is that it spells out a punishment regime. And so, should you fail to declare your assets, you risk serving up to 2-year jail time. As it stands currently, there's really no specific punishment that is prescribed. Shraj is supposed to determine that, and we've seen in times past that a lot of the time, maybe it ends up being a reprimand. We've seen ASEPA take a litany of matters there, but what this legislation seeks to do, it seeks to create a specific way that the punishment should be carried out. Another issue that it brings about is the definition of conflict of interest. It's not properly defined in any specific legislation, and so Shraj has over the period been relying on decisions of courts on those matters, or how itself it had ruled in previous case, and bits of the public officers conduct, that code that it had come out in the code. And so we are now going to have an actual legislation that deals with it. This is not really the first time this bill has come to parliament. It was in the previous parliament, i.e. the first administration of Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo. It was taken to Parliament. The AG then had pushed for it to be passed, but it couldn't be passed just before Parliament rules because of obvious corrections that were being made to various parts of the bill and all those things. And so the AG has put this before a stakeholders forum. They are having discussions, receiving feedback, and making changes, hoping that they will take it to Parliament soon. Then it could be passed within the 4-year period or 4-year life of this particular Parliament.
Well, we hope that this will not also just, after all these detailed work that you outline, we will not just add it to what we have already. There's the health minister who went bypassed getting approval from Parliament, and now he says that, he's sorry and that it won't happen again. So even when we have the laws, we still do otherwise and come back and apologize. We hope that this won't
I was amazed to hear him say
those.
that. I mean, it's quite strange, and I think a member of the committee, Kobna Minta Kando, was spot on when he made a very interesting point about the fact that, look, Parliament, we know our work. We have emergency mechanisms. There are issues that are sent to Parliament and a certificate of emergency, and so it's not a shut window such that when people are dying and you need COVID-19 vaccines, you sidestep the rule and simply say that, okay, I have no option than to just sidestep it. There's a procedure in place. You go under a certificate of emergency and you get it done. I mean, I think this probe, initially I had my own reservations about whether it would be worthwhile, but with the things that have come up so far, yes, we understand really that we were in a situation where there was a lot of, anxiety. We are trying to get vaccines. We are virtually within that same situation now. I'm sure the health minister will agree. The president is worried about the surge.
Even worse, right? Because I think the numbers that we're recording now are greater than then.
Absolutely. And so does that mean that we are going to sidestep the process again? And especially when there had been an attorney general's advice. It's an aspect of the story that people are not paying attention to. He actually admitted that the AG advised that he seeks parliamentary approval. Then the all-powerful health minister decided to do contrary. I mean, it's very strange.
But we wait to see. I think yesterday I mentioned that there's the Waterville case. I mean, Martin Amidu went chasing, all because there had been that ruling that it was, they were supposed to seek parliamentary approval. It didn't happen. So whatever you do, if it brings costs, is your own costs. I hope that we'll be looking forward to what has been set already and follow accordingly.
Absolutely. Except that in this particular instance, he indicates that, again, on one of the last days, that there is some amount of money that we have to pay the people for the initial vaccines that came in already. I like, and I've heard other lawyers, I personally also disagree with portions of that Martin Amidu Waterville case that you alluded to. Because what we saw in that particular instance is that the state hid behind obligations that were to be performed by the state. And so it's the state that's supposed to ensure parliamentary ratification. The state does not do that. Then I make payments to you for the contract executed with an international agreement which I didn't get parliamentary approval for. Then I turn around and take it to the court for the court to annul and say that, look, the contract was not lawful, so refund the money to me. I mean, in other jurisdictions and even in international law, people make the point that you cannot hide behind a local legislation to escape such obligation. You were the one who was supposed to ensure that you get a parliamentary ratification. And I think that we should get to the point where the courts take a second look and rather go the way that you are pointing out, that the individual who failed to ensure the necessary parliamentary approval should personally be surcharged. Because as it stands now, the thing that the minister and any other person need to understand about the parliamentary approval is that it is our representatives. Their work is to go through to ensure that it is in our interest. They may have pointed out that a $19 was too much for us to enter into.
Yeah. Well, this is still very much a developing story, so we wait to see what happens. The committee will sit again today. They're continuing. But do we have a little time to do myjoyonline.com so we check what's on our page? Otherwise, Joseph, what are the issues that we're following today just before you run off? There was lawyer Frifa. Now we know Akutampa has responded. But on Monday, he was at the CID headquarters. Do we know, what is going to follow?
And so for now, the case that is at the General Legal Council is really the main strand of this particular matter. The CID is just a probe on a side that is seeking to determine whether there is any merit whatsoever in the allegation of bribery that he leveled against the Chief Justice. And so the CID is pursuing that angle. He's also defending himself in the General Legal Council, hoping that he does not risk being sanctioned as a lawyer for the allegations that his client has leveled against him. And so earlier we had picked the indication that the Association of Magistrates and Judges are monitoring this particular development closely, and they may speak on the matter because they have serious concerns about the allegations that have been put out and the manner which it was put out. And so that is also another angle of the story that we are looking out to see what will happen.
Okay, Joseph, just before we wrap up on this issue, I've been thinking, are we blowing this out of proportion perhaps? Because did he make specific allegations, or he was only narrating what his clients, they're no longer client's lawyer, they don't have a client-lawyer relationship, but he was only saying what the client supposedly told him?
Absolutely. I mean, that's what it is. And then a lot of people have described it as hearsay. The man clearly has not been told by the Chief Justice to bring any $5 million. He's never said that anywhere. All he says is that, look, the client actually says, you asked me for $100,000 to do ways and means to secure favorable judgment. I paid $100,000 for doing it, so I asked for you to refund it, and you refunded $25,000. Lawyer FIFA comes in and says that, look, no, you actually came to tell me that your friends who are politically connected have spoken to the Chief Justice, who had said that we should bring $5 million and that we should also ensure that Akufo-Addo takes over the case. Mr. Ampao has denied that. And so it is clearly what he is saying his client said. Mm-hmm. And so it's not something that he personally has direct knowledge of, except hearing from his client. And so ideally, had it not been a public domain, it would have been an issue that could have been trashed out by the General Legal Council.
Absolutely. Well, so who leaked the documents? Big question, because we're not lawyers, we're not part of the council. It's only the parties involved. So who leaked the documents? Why is it a public conversation now with all these allegations running around? Well, we'll see how we solve that. But Joseph, thank you very much. Joseph is back with me tomorrow, God willing, as we review some more papers tomorrow, Thursday. For now, though, we'll take a breather. We'll come back with sports.